All right, well, greetings and salutations, everybody out there in YouTube land. Your host, once again, Dan Thornton. And as promised, I wasn't going to do a post game show after the live cast last night, but I'm coming at you here from the infamous Circle K. Sorry, I'm going to have to reconfigure the studio after getting it ready for last night's broadcast. So we're going to have to do this one on the road. Let's talk about it. The Lions 3-1. They get a big boy win in Green Bay, where man, that first half was as dominant a football half for the Detroit Lions as perhaps anyone has ever seen. It'd be really hard to find fault other than the Goff pick on the first drive. And what do you know? The Lions have back-to-back road wins in Lambeau Field for the first time in, man, who even knows? And that also gives them their fourth straight win over the Green Bay Packers. That's something that hasn't happened since the early 80s when Monty Clark was the coach of the Lions. And if you're old enough to remember his regime, Lions actually had a chance to go into the Super Bowl, but lost on a missed Eddie Murphy field goal against the 49ers. Boy, I had to really think for a second there. All right, let's get to modern day Lions. So, hey, it doesn't seem like we really got any serious injuries from that game. We'll find out about Brian Branch, but I know late last night the x-rays were negative, so it's more likely just an ankle sprain, and he's going to have to just gut it out for a while. The good part is, I'm sure if you're watching this, you're aware the Lions are going to have this weekend off, and then you have a week to rest and prepare before facing Carolina a week from Sunday. We can say what we want about Jared Goff. There are people that love him, people that hate him, etc. But one thing we can't deny is in the last 14 games, the Lions are the fourth winningest team in all the NFL. And a large part of that is because of Goff's leadership. If you watch the post-game show on Amazon Prime, they interviewed him and they talked, I thought, ad nauseum about how he has changed from his time in LA to here and how he's grown up, matured, become a better quarterback, etc. Let's talk about David Montgomery. This guy coming off an injury, a thigh bruise that was questionable if he was going to play. Again, give a lot of credit to him. 3 touchdowns, 120 some odd yards rushing. He might not be the back that I thought the Lions should go after and get, but there's no denying this kid runs hard. He hits holes. He's going after it, and he's going to punish opposing defenses with his physical play. Don Burr, hey, coach, what do you think Detroit makes a move in the trade deadline? Don, I'll say this. It makes sense to me because, I'll ask you and anybody's watching, really, outside the 49ers in the NFC, is there any team you feel like Detroit can't match up with? And let's also keep in mind we're just weeks away from Jameson Williams returning. That is going to impact how defenses play. I was talking about it in a live cast last night with Tony Libretto. Think about the first couple of games of the season when everybody was just double teaming St. Brown. Could you really do that to St. Brown or any other option and then leave Jameson Williams in single coverage every play? Because you can't double team them both. If Detroit just has too many weapons, I think you'd just be, destroying your defense if you did so. So I think it's going to be an interesting proposition for Brad Holmes to look at, Don. What can the Detroit Lions do to add to really push this team into 49ers territory? Yeah, Lions win, and everybody should be celebrating. It's not often we can say, hey, we got a victory Monday and a victory Friday in the same week, and yet the Lions have got that. And I'm going to say, I think the Lions are hitting a stride. We talked about some of the praise that we should be giving to Aaron Glenn for how this team played against Atlanta and then the first half of last night's game. Look, I think Aaron Glenn understands his defense wasn't the greatest against Seattle. We can go into why and maybe some things that didn't work on their behalf, but one thing we can't deny is what has happened since then. He's become creative. He's moved people around. Jack Campbell, I'm going to be interested later today to see his win stats at the line of scrimmage. That guy might not be getting to the quarterback, but he is definitely a pass rush threat. We've also seen the emergence of other people like Aleem McNeil, Bugs last night, Kaminsky. The Lions have something going on there with the pass rush, and it's causing a lot of issues for the second straight week. The second half last night, I do think that Aaron Glenn's going to have to learn no lead is safe. When you get to zeros on the fourth quarter clock, then your lead is safe. But I thought the Lions kind of backed off right out of the gate in the third quarter, started playing a little bit more passive coverage and pass rush, made the reads easier for Jordan Love. What I mean by that is at the line of scrimmage, who's coming, who's not, how does he change his protection schemes at the line of scrimmage? That's where I really think in the second half, if Aaron Glenn can learn from that, then you know what? Hey, we got the win. We made a mistake or two, perhaps defensively, and we can learn from it. All right, Don. I think we should go after one of the wide receivers or defensive tackles. And why is Marvin Jones still getting reps? You know, I hate saying it because he was a great Lion. He is a great person, but at least so far in the season, man, Father Time caught up to him quick. All right. Seattle's a good team. Give them some credit, too. That's also the point. Hey, the Seattle Seahawks obviously made the playoffs at, the demise of the Detroit Lions season a year ago, but they're a complete offense. They got a good group of receivers, tight ends, and a quarterback. They can run the ball, too. That's a problem for just about any NFL defense. So the Lions are going to have to, not get too much blame for losing to Seattle. Yes, there's some things we could have done differently, but it was an overtime loss. So, anyway, here we go. Hey, good to see you this morning. I'm concerned with DLine pressure in the second half. Yeah, and like I was saying, I think a lot of that is just Aaron Glenn kind of took his foot off the gas a little bit. You could see in the fourth quarter, once the Packers, made a game of it again, they kind of returned to some of that upfront coverage, too many guys at the line of scrimmage, excuse me, uh, putting pressure on Jordan Love to make the right reads as far as who's coming, who's not, and adjust his line blocking assignments when he'd again struggled a little bit with that. Prevent defense in the second half, yeah, it was not great. And I think we all get the extra play the Packers got at the end of the third quarter. That they might have went down and scored irregardless, but they would have had to eat up probably another 2, maybe 3 minutes off the clock, and that does impact the game. I'm sure the NFL will look at it, but if you're worried about officials getting everything right versus you getting everything right, I'd say focus on what you control, not what the officials did or didn't call. Overall, though, I gotta say this to you: raise your hand if before the season started, I'd said, "Hey, we're going to be 3-1 after the first 4 games." Would you have taken it? I know I would have, and I think that's something we all have to look at. Was it a perfect 4-game stretch? No. Did we get better throughout those 4 games? I think the answer is yes. And while we did lose to one NFC team, we also got huge road wins in Green Bay and Kansas City. So Monty Clark is no longer the only Lions coach to go 4-0 at some stretch against the Packers. That's right, Dan Campbell has done just that. And Campbell, sorry. I get it, you guys are getting on me about that all the time. Lions played 4 tough teams to start, went 3-1. Yeah, can't disagree with that. It's a heck of a stretch. It's a heck of a start. And now you got a little time to rest up a little bit more. Decker's ankle injury. Obviously Branch is going to have a bit of an ankle injury. And we're 1 week closer to getting Houston back. CJ potentially back this season. Although I still do think CJ Gardner-Johnson, if he returns this year, it's going to be probably the middle of December, so the latter part of the season. Again, though, you'd be adding some depth. Mosley, I think in my anticipation, he'll be back next week against Carolina. And man, we were talking on the live broadcast that it seems like every NFL team is just focusing when they have to make a throw. They're going after Jerry Jacobs. And, good for him, man. He had 2 picks last night. Has to know that when Mosley gets healthy and comfortable, Jacobs is probably going to the bench as the number 3 or 4 DB, whatever that may be, though. He's not bad. I don't think he's great against number 1 or 2 NFL wide receivers. And unfortunately, most people on the planet can't keep up with other teams' number 1 or 2s. Don Burr, reinforcements on the way with Emmanuel Mosley. Yep. Josh Pascal, Jameson Williams. You got a great point there. I forgot about Pascal being out. But, yeah, just another body to throw in there. Houston will be returning in, I'd say, probably about a month, maybe a little bit more. So we'll see just how that ankle heals. But every week that goes by where you're getting wins and you're buying time where some of these walking wounded that Detroit has have an opportunity to come back. Hopefully Matt Nelson comes back, even though I get he's not exactly a fan favorite. He is good, solid depth, and a lot better than some of the other options we have in certain situations if we do need to go to the bench. All right, well, I'm not going to keep you guys all day. If you haven't yet subscribed to Lions Talk Live, please consider doing so. And if you would, pretty please with sugar on top, maybe even a little Mountain Dew on top, hit that thumbs up button. And I'll see you all tomorrow, unless there's some breaking news today, on the next Lions Talk Live. Have a good day, everybody.